Hey, this is Jason Blummer, and we want to thank our sponsor, Bill.com, a platform we've been using for many years to run our firm's own virtual AP and AR experience for our clients, too. And as is common with Bill.com, they've raised the bar on AP innovation again, and they have a new AI-enabled platform. It offers a sweet new user experience. You'll see it's redesigned, easier to find buttons, more compact. And, of course, they got international payments. We love Bill.com. Bill.com, thanks for sponsoring the Thrivecast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Thrivecast. I'm Jason, and it's special in a lot of reasons. And listeners, if you're listening, which if you're a listener, I'm imagining you're listening, this is a special podcast because we are in a live studio audience, and I have my friend with me, Greg Kite, right beside me. Greg, you are right here.
What? Yes.
There you are.
Dude, it's awesome and refreshing to be in the same room with you while we do this.
That's right.
I know we can slap each other in the face, but we can't mute each other like we could on Zoom.
But so we're here for a reason. There's a special reason we're here.
Yeah.
Greg.
Yeah.
Tell people what you have done.
I'm here to talk about the horrible choices I've made in life.
My name is Greg.
No. Here's what's happening. As you may or may not know, if you regularly listen to podcasts, our last podcast that dropped was our 120th episode. If you're good at math, which I'm assuming you are as an accountant,
right?
That means 10 years. We've done this thing for 10 years, and it was about a year and a half ago. I like to joke around telling people I gave you my 18-month notice. That I was like, hey, I think at the end of 10 years, right, I think it's time for me to just kind of let's wrap up me as the co-host of the podcast. And it was a weird decision, and I think you'll remember this. So it was a weird decision.
No, I was sobbing in the corner with a bottle of liquor.
were you with just your bullet bourbon right, and no ice, right, and a glass, but you just. You just straight from the bottle, even though you had a glass right there.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
That was it. Well, but it's because the reasons why is stuff that we've talked. I mean, it's not quite this, but it's kind of this. Is kind of like applying some of the stuff that we've talked about over the years,
just in a heartbreaking way.
In a way that just well, and I'll tell you why it's heartbreaking and stuff. But here's what we've talked about before. We've talked about pruning a lot. Like I remember we've done whole episodes about pruning, where it's like you have, because we're so prone to say yes to so many things that at least for every new thing you say yes to, you've got to say no to something, right? To something, like if you say yes to a new thing, you got to say no to an old thing, right? But then also, I don't know how much. I'm sure this has come up on the podcast, but one of Ron Baker's big things is he's like, your firm should stay below capacity. It's like you should be operating at like 80 or 90% capacity for your firm. And the reason why is so you have enough capacity, so if you have an existing client, like a high net worth, high value client to your firm, that if they've got huge needs, you can't say, oh, we can't take care of you because I'm working my people like a drug mule.
Right.
Is that
so? Pruning
is that the first thing that I shouldn't have said out loud on this? Okay, number one.
So pruning is big.
So pruning's big, and I'm trying to do all that. But here's where it gets crazy. Here's where it gets heartbreaking and difficult for everybody. Is what if you, just like me, you've made awesome decisions and everything you've said yes to is stuff that's kind of rad. Then. At
what do
some
you do?
point,
then how do you prune?
The only thing, it's because that's the thing, and I think that's maybe even where we went before, is when we've talked about pruning. It's like because we talk about pruning clients. You got to fire clients who aren't right for your firm. Fire clients that you're not psyched about serving. Yeah. And stuff. And it's like, okay, well, that's easy if you can go, okay, this person's not a good fit. But then what if everything's a good fit? The only things that you have that are like prunable are things that are good things.
Right. So that's a whole so pruning strategy is easy when you have a lot of bad things in your life.
It's still not easy.
No, it's not easy,
but easier. It's easy to identify what to get rid of.
Right, like bad clients, it's like, all right, prune them.
Yeah.
You're saying you ending your career as the Thrivecast co-host.
Right. Right.
Which is still hard to say.
I know.
For me.
Well, I'm in denial. I mean, I haven't said it out loud. I'm totally in denial. This does not
exist.
Well, this just doesn't feel like it's going to be the last thing.
Okay. Well, who knows, right? So this good thing you're pruning in your life.
Right.
As a very strategic kind of decision.
Yeah.
For
it
you.
is a strategic.
Pruning a good thing.
Yeah.
That must mean something more mature. Does that mean you're mature?
Well, yeah.
You've matured.
I'm gonna
Greg.
say yeah.
I'm gonna say yeah. You've matured.
Yeah, because if anybody knows me, they go, that guy, he's mature.
Yeah.
That Greg guy.
Tell you, that Greg Kite is mature.
But it's kind of cool too. So part of it was just thinking about life and where everything is, and going 10 years. That's a decade. That's a long time to do everything, and it just felt right to wrap it up. And I've second guessed myself. Do you remember the email do you guys remember the email that I sent? I sent y'all email going, I think I've made a horrible decision. What if this? And then, like, and I can't even remember. I think you guys you were like, no.
But no, you're out.
You're out. You're done.
No.
We've already moved on.
No, we've moved on.
But it was crazy because I'm not much of a guy to go with my gut on stuff.
Okay. But
I do feel like even when I contemplate, well, what if we just kept going in perpetuity? I can feel that's not. It's very Oprah Winfrey. I can't get in the space very often, but going with my gut, I just go. It's the right time and it's the right move to make. And what's exciting about it is that I don't necessarily. I mean, I think we're gonna wrap this whole thing up talking about what's next. And there's a lot of stuff on my plate that may be horrible failures or maybe huge successes.
Who knows?
And there's other stuff that's. I just read something in the book I'm reading. I just read a Richard Branson quote. He's the Virgin Air guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He said opportunities in life are like buses. There's always one that's going to come along, and that's the thing. You just don't even know what's even a possibility. But I'm excited to see what's there with that extra capacity that I'll have.
And I think so. Pruning is what creates that capacity.
Yeah.
So pruning a hard thing is sometimes easier.
Yeah.
Though it's not simple, but pruning a good thing still is something that opens up new opportunities.
Yeah.
For you. But so I don't know if we're maturing, but 10 years we've been together.
Oh my gosh.
Friends, 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
Like we were in our 30s.
Which is crazy. I mean, we were still barely in our 30s when we started
right.
this.
You had hair.
Yeah, I did. I hadn't given up yet.
I didn't have a beard. Neither one of us had a beard.
I had a goatee. I think I had a goatee.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had just I was on the 40 under 40 list, maybe for the last time.
Yeah. You were.
And then in 2010, I had a hair up my butt. Is that how you say it?
It's how you do now.
So a crazy hair up my butt. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah.
To do a podcast.
You had a swamp rabbit in your butt.
That's a Greenville term, right?
I've been here a lot.
Right. So you've been here a lot. So to do a podcast, I had heard of those and didn't know much about them. But I remember. So I went to a Verisage event I think it was early 2011. 11.
Yep, it was January 2011.
January 2011. Yep. And I hadn't met you yet, but I was in the audience. And then you did a stand-up gig there.
Yeah.
And I think we even have pictures or videos of that.
There's a few videos circulating.
Yeah, we have that. And so and then we couldn't afford to go to dinner with Ron Baker and all the friends.
Yeah.
So we went to and I went to a cheap ass restaurant.
No. The story's slightly different from that because Ron Baker.
It was so long ago.
So
I'm in my 90s.
Here, let me tell you how this worked out. So Ron Baker and all of his friends, all his rich rich ass friends. They're like, hey, and this is a decade ago.
Right.
He's like, which also, I mean, we're not just talking inflation and the time value of money sort of stuff. We're talking about you and I at least me. A total different financial setting for me in my life. And Baker's like, hey, we're gonna have a dinner in a wine cave at a winery at a winery in Napa, California. Right. It's basically all the wine you can drink, and it's $350 a person.
Yeah,
and I still don't really drink wine at all.
Right.
So I was like going, oh, so it's like a $50 meal that I'm gonna pay $300 subsidizing everybody else's alcoholism is what it is, and so I was like, I'm not gonna go. And then like right before,
and I'm like, oh, I can't afford that.
Yeah, I was too. And then right before it, he calls me and says, hey, we got to get a final head count for this wine cave thing, and we haven't heard from you. You in or you out? And I go, I'll just hang out with all the other people who aren't going, just assuming that the majority of people would be like $350. Go to hell, Ron Baker.
In a wine cave.
And so I was like, I'm good. I'll hang out with the other. And he's like going, oh yeah, well there's this one person who's not going. His name's Jason Blummer. He's a cool young accountant. I think you guys will get along. I'm like going, Baker, I'm not going on a blind date with some nerd that I've never met before. So I guess I'm in.
Ron Baker set us up.
No, I still went. I went to the wine cave. I shucked out the money and went. So that was different.
Oh, you went?
There were other dinners besides the wine cave dinner.
You didn't invite me I didn't go to the wine cave.
You didn't because you chose to not do. You were invited.
Okay.
But then we went to some just bar.
Okay.
You and me and some other folks
went
there. And then we, but also because I was trying to recoup some of my lost $350. So instead of us getting a cab or an Uber, I don't know, was Uber a thing 10 years
ago? I don't think so.
And maybe not. What?
No.
So instead of getting a cab back, you and me and John from Knoxville, John Shaver from Knoxville, we walked back thinking it was going to be just a nice brisk evening walk, and it was like 2 miles later, we're and an hour and a half or something, we're back at the hotel.
So Ron Baker set us up on a blind date.
Yep.
So, thanks, Ron.
Yep.
Ron, we love you. And so after that, I think I had the idea for the podcast before that. I think, and so I needed a co-host, or I thought I needed a co-host. Mm-hmm. It turns out I was wrong. That was a mistake.
Yeah, so
10-year mistake.
Get the hell out.
So then what did I email you? I asked you. I said, hey, Greg, I'm Jason. Remember me?
Yeah.
On the blind date, do you want to be my co-host?
Well, I remember there being a phone call, but it was 10 years ago.
Maybe. So
I don't know.
I called you.
But the weird thing, I don't know if you remember this part about the story. Like literally the day before that, I had written an email to one of my comedy buddies who I knew he's like a computer engineer. He's in he's in that space. But he also was he was an avid business book reader. And I was like, and like you, podcasts were kind of heating up.
Right. Yeah.
Flash in the pan, get in while it's hot because this is gonna be over soon.
Oh yeah.
And so I like literally the day before, I think you called me, but I think the day before that I emailed this buddy.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what would you think if we did a business podcast together?
You emailed him.
I emailed him
to
do a business podcast the day before you called me. And then I said yes to you. And even though...
Well, your loser friend never got back to you.
He never even replied to me. So it was...
So you took me because I was like first, and I replied first. Okay.
Well, and it made better sense.
Did it?
Too. Yeah. Well, yeah.
You had just gone on a blind date with me.
I just gone on a blind date with you.
So you're
I felt the chemistry.
You're like, this is working.
But also the other thing, and again, I'm probably wrong with the timing on this, but I think it was at that conference with Ron in Napa that I found out that I had officially earned I'd gotten my license as a CPA at that same, it came in the mail.
Wait. You didn't even have the credentials to be on my show?
No.
That was a CPA show.
By April, I did. In January, I did. When you met me.
Okay.
Maybe when we first shook hands, I was not a CPA. Oh. But by the time we walked 2 miles home from a bar, I'm pretty sure I was a CPA then.
So the mail had come.
The mail had come at home in Utah.
Okay.
And then
so then you come on a podcast for CPAs.
Oh, with so much experience.
We were faking.
You had to have known. You had to have known that. Did you not know that I was just that green?
No,
I was so green.
You have been faking the whole time.
I feel like I'm an open book, and that everybody knew.
So okay,
you got bamboozled because Baker made me a fellow of the VeriSage Institute.
Oh, what I thought,
that thing is like, this guy must have been around forever, and I'm like, no, huge. I've known Baker for like 4 months. So.
This is great. Okay, so at the time I asked you to be on a podcast, I didn't know what it was going to be. Here, 10 years later, whoops, I guess we had a podcast.
Right.
Maybe, I know what it was.
What?
Maybe you're thinking, Blummer's going to go on until he dies. I'm going to need to back out of this. You're like, Blummer, I am not seeing you slow down. You're going to need to either crank this horse down a little bit. So you're like, I'm gonna have to back out. He's not stopping.
Well, that's one of the things.
That's why you quit.
No, we were talking about that. Did you when we started this podcast? Did you think it would go for 10 years? Did you, Jason Blummer, think this podcast nonsense would go on for a decade?
I did not have any clue as to what it would do.
Yeah,
I wanted to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So I see a beginning. I don't see ends properly.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's a good way to say it.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know if that's right about me.
Yeah.
I see the beginning. I don't see the end all the time.
Right.
So I'll keep going, and I'll meander down that road and take different paths if I need to.
Sure.
And so here we are.
Right. Well,
here we are.
Same thing for me.
Okay.
I was like this.
Yeah, you didn't know what it'll be.
No. And it was even kind of like I alluded to before. It was weird. It's in some more recent podcasts that we've done. We've had guests on who have their own podcasts, and a lot of times right before we interview them, when we're off air, you'll be like, "So me and Gray, we've been doing this about 10 years," and they go, "Oh my gosh, you guys were original podcasters."
Yeah.
I felt like we were a little late to the party when we got started.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know if this podcast thing is really gonna even podcasting as a medium itself.
Yeah,
we did. The future was uncertain.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
So
and I think there was only one. There was like 1 or 2 accounting podcasts at the time.
Yeah.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, let's start one.
And there've been a lot of others that have kind of cycled up and cycled down.
Yeah,
in
podcasts,
the 10 years.
And now podcasts come in and out of the market constantly.
Right.
And so we've always done one show a month.
Yeah.
When people ramp them up, they start, 6 shows a week or something. I'm like, you're going to peter yourself out. You're going to need to pace yourself, man, because it takes time.
Well, do you even remember what was our goal when we started? It wasn't just one a month, but I think very quickly we were both like, that feels about like all we can do.
All we can do.
Right?
Yeah. I think, because we've always done one a month.
Yeah.
So I think we knew from the beginning.
That it was one a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because maybe we got a guest and we're like, scheduling was a pain.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that all the time.
Right.
Let's just do it once a month.
Right.
So,
and yeah, I can't. I thought at the beginning we thought we'd do it more often than that. I thought we felt like we'd need to do it more often than that to keep a listener base.
Yeah.
But since we don't have any listeners, I guess it didn't
Your
matter
mom
that
listens. I think
she listens every month.
Your mom, the one you smoke cigars with.
She still won't message me on my Twitter handle that we've given out every episode for 10 years.
That's right. You've asked her.
So yeah,
Mom.
But she's not on the social media, which is actually a blessing in disguise. Thanks, Mom.
So the cool thing about our podcast is that we have traveled with our podcast, and I don't know if everybody knows that or remembers.
We used to, yeah.
So we've gone on the road.
Uh-huh.
So I think the AICPA one time asked us to do one at an AICPA event.
Yeah.
We had Mark Koziel, I think,
and Tom Hood.
And
together.
Tom Hood.
Yeah.
Together.
Yep.
Okay, on the podcast.
Yep. At the Vegas.
Yeah.
The Vegas dealie.
Right.
So
the Vegas dealio.
Right.
And then this is funny.
which was a good podcast.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I remember because so much, especially then. I don't know if it's so much now, but especially then, the ennui of Thrivecast. That's not the right word. I'm not using that word right. The ethos. Let's say the ethos. Is that a better?
I don't know what
I studied a lot of big words on the plane right out here.
Okay.
Sort of the culture of Thrival was kind of like, we're rebels. We don't need state societies or America, AICPA. We don't need America.
You're about to do a Schwarzenegger voiceover.
The state society. But Tom Hood, I think Tom Hood when he was there, was either him or Koziel. They were like, hey, listen, here's what you don't know. We're going to bat for the profession as a whole,
That's right,
and so it's kind of like I don't remember what they said exactly, but I remember
that was a good one.
A lot of people being good and a lot of people going, oh yeah, maybe it is good to be
that was good
to pay my dues.
Now, but my favorite travel one. You know which one my favorite travel
I totally do.
Yeah, is when Fresh Books, they rented a house at South by Southwest.
Yep.
And I convinced them to let us do a live podcast, fly us in to do a live podcast at South by Southwest at their party ranch.
Yeah, it was a party ranch. And it was the day before South by Southwest started. Right. So it was like a pre-party. Fresh Books was like, we are going to pack this house with a bazillion people.
Right.
And it's going to be like techno music and there
were 12 people.
There was like 12 people at the whole thing.
So what we got,
and 10 of them weren't paying attention to what we were doing.
So we were
street performers at this South by Southwest ranch that they rented. Like going, hey, come on over here. We got a cool thing going over here. Hey, put down your free drinks and beverages and come listen to us for an hour.
Right. So we had hand recorders. Like where we were talking into these hand recorders. And then we were going to have editors splice it together when we got back. And so there was we went on the back deck of the house.
Yeah.
And everybody was drinking, talking, and we like interrupted them.
Yeah.
Hey, we're about to do a live podcast. And they're like, You're what?
Can I move over there? You need me to get out of here? It's like, no, we need an audience.
No, you stay there.
But then the people who like did interact with us were like weirdos and haters. We're like, I freaking hate accountants. The less I have to interact with an accountant, the better my life is. Oh, okay. Well, that's one value proposition.
So we did the podcast. I think we had it planned, and I think it bombed like bad on the deck with about 12 people.
Yeah.
And then it got cold, and we went in the house in Austin. You remember?
I kind of remember that,
and we were standing
in a kitchen?
Yeah. And then one guy from the deck followed us in and wouldn't stop talking. And so we continued the podcast.
Was he Russian? Or was he wearing a Russian hat or something?
He was a Russian hat? I don't know.
Okay, I'm making up memories in my mind that I swear there was a Russian there. Is this when it turned into a spy movie? Okay.
We didn't shoot a spy movie at the Fresh Books Party Ranch.
Would have been funner.
Right, would have been funner. But no, that guy wouldn't stop talking to us, and we're like, hey, we're going to wrap this up. And he kept talking about, I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Like just strange stories of his friend's accountant who and he doesn't understand economics. I don't know. He just went on and on.
Right.
You know, and we're both going, we're going to need to wrap this up, man. This has not worked out the way we planned.
And here's the thing that I remember the most about that trip to South by Southwest is when we got there, we rented a car and it was a Fiat something or other.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, that sounds cool. Give us that.
We got a Fiat.
Give us that Fiat, and it was like a VW Bug, but of Fiats and smaller.
Right.
It was tiny.
It was a 2-door Fiat.
It was a 2-door Fiat, and you rented that car, and you're like, this is how you're gonna like bus us around.
Right.
And then there was also Tom Hood and Casey Bain and Jody Padar who all wanted rides from you in this time. And so
around Austin,
we packed 5 of us in a car that arguably maxed out at 2 in this car, and we drove around Austin, Texas, like that. We called it the clown car. I called it the clown car.
Yeah. So if we stopped, people kept getting.
Yeah,
out
it's
of
like
the
how do they
car.
fit that many people in that tiny car?
Kind of laying on each other. So I guess that was it. So.
That was fun.
Yeah,
that was a good. It was a good time.
Oh, that was a good time.
Yeah.
But then we started doing live podcasts at Deeper Weekend.
Right, which was a blast.
Right. Now, Deeper Weekend, I think you're the only one who's been at Deeper Weekend.
You and me, baby.
Yeah, me and you, I guess. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep, every single one. We did puppets. Do you remember the puppets?
We did.
We sang a song as puppets.
We did that a couple years in a row.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Now, we still have the puppets.
Mine does not any longer look like me.
No.
So
your puppet is not bald.
Not at all.
No. And my puppet does not look old and saggy with a white beard. It looks like a younger guy. It doesn't have a beard.
Right. Does not.
My puppet does not. So we did live podcasts at Deeper Weekend for a while. Mm-hmm. And we'd have a live studio audience at the podcast.
Which was a blast.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then we had the speakers who were there. They would be guests on the podcast.
Yep.
And then we'd always launch that one in October, I guess, because Deeper Weekend was always in October.
And did we? Because the other thing I remember about the live podcast, do you remember? I'd like warm up the crowd with my stand-up comedy beforehand.
You'd yell at everybody.
And I'd yell at everybody. I'd yell my stand-up comedy and my accounting jokes. One of the ones I remember, I had this bit because it's so funny, like the comedy, because like a lot of my like headlining set is about accounting and being an accountant,
right.
And so you have to dumb stuff down for like the clubs,
right?
And so I had this one where it's like hey, like the premise, like I'm making fun of a couple of charities that I used to give a little bit of money to,
yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, so you know how charitable giving is a great tax planning tool, and people were like, no, it's actually not. What? No, don't. What are you even talking about? Boo, boo. And I'm like, you're right, it's not, but that's how I'd get into that. That would be my segue when I'm around dum-dums. So just follow me along. Just say yes, and then I can get to the jokes.
That's right.
So
we had a lot of fun doing the live podcast, and then we stopped doing those.
Recently.
Yeah, so a few years ago we stopped doing those, and that was just to change up Deeper Weekend.
Yeah.
You know, but you kept coming, and you kept doing MC. You were the MC. For many years.
Every year.
Every year.
Well, no. I guess my role sort of morphed. I think
maybe.
Yeah, but I
can't remember.
I was.
Maybe
it's been 10 years.
We don't know.
Yeah,
now, but here's the thing.
We didn't re-listen to all of them.
No.
Or we didn't. I guess it's not listening. It's like, how could we go back in time to see what my role was at the early Deeper Weekends?
Well, we couldn't. Not on the podcast.
Yeah.
But all the podcasts are on the Thrival side.
Yes.
So you can hear all 10 years.
Yep.
So you want to go list? You want to go do that, listener?
Well, and so one of the things we were going to talk about was like, what are some of your most memorable episodes that we did? Because I've got a list of like.
Let's see. I have.
I've got a list of.
No. So here's one. No, we had so many. Dan Ariely.
Oh, that's my top one too.
Yeah. A great one.
It was
so he was the Duke professor. Which you tried to impress on the show.
I wanted so bad for him to be my best friend after that show.
And he did not think we were cool at all.
I think he thought you were cool. He thought I was annoying. I was trying to be funny. I was like, hey, I'll win him over with my jokes. And he was just like, hey, or stop talking and let me say important things.
But he was good. That was a good.
Yeah.
But we were trying to be his best buddy. And
right.
I don't know if he.
And his books are some of my favorite books. I love Predictably Irrational.
Predictably Irrational's good.
Did he? And I think he was on the podcast to promote his book, The Honest Truth About Dishonesty,
right?
Which is his book about ethics, which I have created an entire side cottage industry. Plagiarizing his material for my ethics CPE stuff that I do. It's almost entirely his research that I repackage.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah. So the cat's out of the bag. When you do an ethics course, you ripped it all from Dan Ariely.
Well, this is payback, bitch. maybe you should have been nice to me when you came on the show.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen.
Right. I'm going to steal your stuff and I'm going to sell it.
That's right.
Right. Now, we don't have many 2-timers.
No.
Or 3-timers. Do we have 3-timers?
I don't know if we have any 3-timers.
But we know Tim Williams, Ron Baker.
Yep.
These guys.
Blair Enns was a 2-timer.
Blair Enns was a 2-timer.
Caleb Newquist, I believe, was a 2-timer.
Okay, he was a 2-timer.
So, yeah, there was a few of them.
Now, one of my top ones, right, is going to be my...
Is it?
It's Peter Block.
Yes!
So, if anybody knows me, Peter Block's books are ones that I read a lot. So, those are...
He's a hero.
He's my hero.
I'm telling the story. I don't care. You can't muzzle me on live TV.
No, so we can tell this one.
Can we? Because it was the same thing. You had a major crush on him going in to this episode. And he indulged you.
Yeah.
He was like, let's totally work together, Blummer.
I'm like,
yeah.
Peter.
Right.
Peter, me?
That's what I wanted Ariely to do to me. And Block did it to you. He was like, look, we got to collaborate, bro.
And I'm like, yes. Now, he's never called me back.
Yeah.
Or returned my emails. So there's that.
Right.
But he's an 80-year-old guy, business consultant.
Yeah.
Just tons of wisdom.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, everything he says is just so massive. I underline all his books. I learned so much. And he came on the podcast.
Yep.
That was one of my favorite shows, and he yelled at us and fussed at us.
He did.
Stuff.
Oh well, but I think, but it was. I remember that being good though. That he was like,
abuse me, Peter.
But you need. He was candid. I think that's what I'm going to say. The man was candid, and I don't think candor is a bad thing.
Well, we're reaching into our age where candor becomes normal. Right.
Right.
So
where we could just say whatever.
Get
we
off
want.
my lawn,
and everybody's
brat.
like, he's old.
He's
let
old.
Let him talk.
Right.
One of the reasons why, and this even goes back to like me not really caring how long the podcast got to go, is just it's been fun to do it along the way, and that I feel like you and Julie have allowed me to just be like authentically me on the podcast. I think you knew what you were getting into when you asked me to be on it, and I appreciate just the way that y'all have let me be me on this podcast. And there have been almost no, well, I guess with the blog posts I've written to you, Jennifer, she used to be my editor as much as anyone was an editor for those. And sometimes she'd be like, a few too many swears. Can we back down on those swears a little bit? And I think at one time she even told, like, give me a list of like here's ones I'm okay with, here's ones not so much, which was...
Here's how many F-bombs you need to include.
Right, it's so sort of...
Cut it back.
Like the MPAA ratings for movies is similar to where we want to be. But the one time that I got like shut down for a blog post idea was my Peter blog post.
Yes.
Because the first draft of that, I was just constantly going, and it's like he's the wisest person around. He's like Yoda, and just drops stuff, and it's awesome because he wears no pants. And the whole time, the whole joke of the blog post was like, here's something amazing that he told me. Also, 0 pants.
and I'm like,
and you're like,
dude. He's my guy, man.
Don't mess up my opportunity by offending him on this blog post.
I'm trying to get in with the Peter Block organization.
Yeah. But I get it, man.
Yeah.
So I obliged.
I had a crush.
I tweaked the blog post.
You did it right. So we didn't always censor you.
Right.
But so people don't know that the blog posts have a filter on them.
Barely.
I
mean, but there is. Yeah. There's some.
It's more
than the podcasts.
Right. That's right, more than the podcast. But sometimes we'll censor those a little bit.
Yeah.
But what would you say in the past 10 years is one of the things you learned the most? Now is this about yourself or?
Do you want to know from the podcast?
Yeah.
I'll tell you one. This even goes to one of my more memorable podcasts. It was one of the ones that happened. It was one of our more recent episodes. and it's so funny because I remember what he said, but I had to look up his name because I couldn't remember the name of the guest. It was Mark Champagne.
Yeah.
He was the guy. Wasn't he kind of the first guy we got on that was like, okay, pandemic has been bad for mental health.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's talk about mental health for us as a profession.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't even know how this came about, but we were talking about how you love to just take out the leaf blower and just leaf blower out your garage.
Right.
And it was the thing that you like.
Just mindless.
That's it's like your happy place. And I was like, and I was like, I totally get that because the best weekends for me, the most relaxing weekends aren't me just sitting doing nothing. It's where maybe it's leaf blowing out my garage, but it's just finding just something that's been
piddle in the yard.
It's just this needs to get done, and I got time to do it, and I feel like doing it right now. So I do that, and then and maybe I finish it, maybe I don't. I don't care. And this guy Mark Champagne was like, he identified that and says that's self-care. What you're doing and it's like, oh, that is.
I'll do more of that.
And all of a sudden that made perfect sense, and it almost like, yeah, I can give myself permission to friggin' do, because. I got some squeaky hardwood floors above the basement, so I'll spend some time screwing some screws, 1 1/4 inch screws into the floor from below to try to shut those up.
And that's self-care.
And it's self-care.
It's self-care.
And as soon as there's something about that, about being able to label that, where
that helped.
That was a big damn deal for me. Where it's like, this is me taking care of myself, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, that was a more recent one. Can I tell you other things?
Yeah.
I got a whole list here.
Tell me more.
I loved. Let's see, Tim Williams. I mean, in terms of, he's just a.
He's so good.
He's so good. And he was one of the ones that was on here twice. Episode 17, episode 41 was his live one after he was the guest at Deeper Weekend, which was fantastic. Right. And some of the stuff he talks about positioning is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because if you've got just such a clear, here's my space, and you're one of few, if like that's my whole story. That's my whole, it's like I do comedy and I'm a CPA.
Right.
And that's where I live. And that's why, I mean, we've talked about the cartoons that I do.
Yeah.
That's Tim Williams crap right there.
Yeah.
Where I'm like I'm doing cartoons that sometimes like I have one about hot assets. And it's like no one understands, like half of CPAs don't get that that cartoon.
That's right.
I shouldn't get that cartoon, but I remember studying that stuff for the CPA exam. And but I was able to sell those because like I wasn't just cartooning for fun. I would have done it for fun. I started doing it just for fun.
Yeah.
And then I sold them because if you've got such a good value proposition and such a good position in your market, then the stuff you do, you can sell it for money.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Tim Williams. Plus, you remember the Magic Logic stuff he talked about?
Yeah.
Where it's like it's like it's basically the commodity versus the higher value stuff.
Yeah.
And that you need to make sure you're selling the magic, not the logic.
Well, and the magic being the unknown that people want, that you have to convince them that they want.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say
that's your whole firm.
Yeah. No, that
I mean, you're like, sure, we'll do your tax returns.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, there's a story about that in Deep Workers. Yeah. But I think Tim Williams has done a lot to influence how we build the firm, which is to position very narrowly into serving creative agencies and companies. And you tried to get me. Do you remember?
It was at the Tim Williams. It was his Deeper Weekend. It was his Deeper Weekend. We're setting up because what I do when I come out for Deeper Weekend, I'm like, I'm like, I consider myself like a camp counselor at Deeper Weekend, where it's like, whatever you need done, I'm here to help facilitate this thing.
We say carry that over there and you'll do it.
Yeah, or drive people. Or that's the biggest thing. The Stuber, where people would call me and be like, hey, I need a ride from the Marriott to the venue, and I'm like, I'm there. I'm on my way. And you guys rented a big 15-passenger van. And Jimmy, remember Jimmy McCarty?
Yeah.
He almost murdered him because the door wasn't shut when I took off, and he almost fell out the door of the car. Did you even know that?
No.
Was your liability insurance paid? Good.
No, I did not know that.
He but so we're decorating the venue for the Tim Williams.
I'm on a ladder.
You're on a ladder. Am I sturdying the ladder? I'm going to say I'm sturdying the ladder so you don't fall down. And what do you?
And so, no, an HVAC guy walks through, and he's like, "What are y'all doing here, man?"
And I go, "Hey, well, we're setting up for a real cutting edge accounting conference. As a matter of fact, this guy right here, he's Greenville's top accountant in the whole damn place. Do you need an accountant? Because I know a good one right here." And you're like, "Greg, shut up! I don't do HVAC. I don't help." He's like, "I'm not for you." That's what you said. I'm not. I don't.
We don't do
pass.
And Greg's like,
and I'm like,
"Ooh. Oh, I was hooking you up, man. Yeah. Got it. Positioning, right?
That was
So you don't do everybody.
Yeah.
No, you just don't do taxes.
Which was awesome. Which was fantastic.
So we're at we're at a accounting conference, listening to somebody talk about positioning, and you're trying to unposition our firm.
I totally unpositioned your firm. I was handing out cards to just random people at the Publix.
Stop. Yeah. So don't get us any clients.
Yeah, don't do that. So let me tell you some other ones that are a big deal to me.
Okay.
Cal Newport. We interviewed him. So my kids, my daughter just graduated high school, and I forgot to actually wrap it and give it to her for her graduation. But I got her his book. Yeah. And I'm like, "You're reading this book.
So good they can't ignore you.
So good they can't ignore you.
Great college book.
Totally. And it just kind of ruins it because he's like, passion's bull crap. Don't go after passion.
Blew my mind.
Here's a better way to go. Because how often have we been like, passion is the key to success? And he's like, maybe not. Do you remember Rafi Muhammad?
Yeah, he was good. The pricing guy.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Joe Pine, The Experience Economy.
Right.
These are just some of the biggest heavy hitters. I loved his book. And the experience economy, applying that to whatever we do in accounting, if you can do it, it's going to help you. Yeah. There was the ladies from Roe, Judy.
I don't know. Jody.
Judy Thompson?
Jody, maybe Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Jody.
Only, results only work environment.
Right. Yeah.
That stuff coming back up today with all the virtual stuff that we do.
And they came and spoke at a deeper weekend too.
And
we did a live. That's what was the live podcast. That one.
That one was
16. Yep. Dan Pink was huge.
He was okay.
We asked him to be on the show, and he's like, "Sure." We're like, "What? Do you know who we are?"
Oh, dude, all of these. I mean, it's so many. Okay, and here's a crazy thing. So before getting ready for this, I went through all the old podcasts. I went through the catalog, and I was like, wait, Dan Pink was on our show? I had spaced it out. And since then I go, oh yeah, he was absolutely on our show. And he was the To Sell Is Human was the book that he was pushing. Right. But the book we liked was Drive. Right. And that happened with so many of our guests. That was the same with Dan Ariely. We love Predictably or Actually. Just I'm not here for that. I'm here for my new book. And same but
promote your new book.
But To Sell Is Human is an amazing book that I've gone back to before. Since, I mean.
Well, and all of these too have influenced us in so many ways. Like Todd Henry.
I got him too.
Yeah, just a creative consultant.
Yeah.
And he has a lot to do with about, loving your work and the passion of your work and things like that.
Right. And so we had a death match with him and Cal Newport.
That's right.
Where, I mean, maybe that was going to be the next episode.
Yeah,
I won't be here for that one.
We should have put them together to fight. Go, get in the ring.
Exactly.
And then we had Adam Davidson.
Yes.
So he's a friend
and you were in his book.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine and Julie.
Are you on the cover of his book?
No. We're not on the cover.
You're not on the cover?
No, we're not on the cover of Adam Davidson's book. But he wrote a book about the passion economy, and he said we inspired that. So we're in chapter 4, and some of the clients we served are in chapter 5 that actually Julie and I still consult with some of those clients too.
That's so cool. And Big Day, because he's Planet Money guy. Yeah. And I was big on that podcast.
Oh, I love
back
that
in
podcast.
Its heyday. I got a T-shirt from that podcast. That's one of my mom's one of those those nice baby boomer ladies who's all about the NPR, and that was a way that we connected was through Planet Money. She's like, "You actually like the things I like too. Here, let's get matching T-shirts." So we have
you and your mom have matching Planet Money T-shirts. That is
we
hilarious.
Absolutely do.
That is hilarious.
And
okay.
Who else you got? I got Blair Enns, the pitch win without pitching. And here's what's crazy. Blair Enns is a big damn deal. And just read. Okay, so the joke is at the end of every Thrivecast, we talk about, hey, how can people reach out to you and contact you? And I think some people actually do. In the 10 years that we've done that, no one has ever reached out to me, ever, because of the Thrivecast.
They're like, nah.
But Blair Enns, who was a guest on the podcast, he tweeted something and he was like, Greg, I think there's a comedy joke for you here somewhere. Like just out of nowhere, just like a month or two ago. And I'm like, he even remembers me? How does he even remember me? So
his books are great. And like we've been doing value pricing in our firm for a good decade now.
Yeah.
You know, just and we call it value pricing purists. So, which means we value price every single dollar that goes through the firm, which is really hard to do.
Totally,
it's not an easy model to do.
But worth it.
Oh yeah, worth it.
So
but we use the pricing models that Blair Enns talks about and Ron Baker stuff. They influenced a lot of how we price. And of course, Blair Enns' latest book is a really deep pricing textbook.
Yeah,
really.
Isn't it? Is it a 3-ring binder?
Yeah, it's a 3-ring binder, and it's like $99.
Yeah,
it's like a freaking textbook.
It's like a Trapper Keeper.
It's a Trapper Keeper for pricing.
With pricing,
Trapper Keeper for pricing.
Nice.
So those are some of our best. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have these on our website because Greg, we're going to say this again. You're not going to be my co-host anymore.
I know. What are you trying to do? What are you doing here,
dude? I cannot believe that. So. I would every month. I would always see you and be with you. Now, before here's we got to pull back the kimono.
Oh, do you know what that means?
Does that mean you see you're naked under it?
I think that's what it's supposed to.
Okay.
Okay.
So pull it back.
Oh.
Greg's like,
and
you want
the
me
one
to?
Time we're doing a video. It's
right.
I did
so
not.
What we're going to do is
signed this waiver.
No, we're just taking off our pants in honor of Peter Block.
Peter Block, right?
So no,
right, okay.
No, the kimono is.
That would have been hilarious if we had just brought pants to hang up in the background.
We should have done that. No, pulling back the kimono is to talk about what's the show like that people don't see.
Okay.
Before we do the show,
right?
So people produce our show, right? Julie reviews the production of the shows, and a few people have produced them. That we show up and we have produced notes and articles, produced for us.
Yeah. Oh,
and then we ignore. So there are people who spend a lot of time producing.
Much time.
They checking it off in a workflow system.
Yeah.
And then Julie's reviewing it, and they're like, "Let's tweak this," and then me and you go, skip all that. I got some great things I want to talk about.
I'm really excited about some stuff that has nothing to do with what they spent all their time getting ready for us.
Right. So you and I roll in with those produced notes, and then we screw around for 30 minutes talking like, "How's your daughter?" And stuff like that. And does that cat peeing in your garage anymore? I would kill that.
That was one of the biggest values you've gotten out of the podcast. Is I became a cat lady during the pandemic.
You did. That's
and I was like, it's so weird. They just know to go pee in the box.
And I'm like, they do? Because you're like, I said, I have a cat peeing in my garage.
You have like some feral cat that you let, like a hobo cat?
Yeah, he's been there for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years?
Yeah.
And he just craps in
He craps in the garage. And I'm like, I hate your guts. But I can't, do anything to you.
Right.
And you magically said,
just know.
Put a big bucket of cat litter in the corner and they'll use it. And I'm like, how do you train them to do it?
And I was like,
you taught me.
I was like, God taught them. So,
and then so I put it in there, and the cat pees in the box, not on the garage.
And I know. And
you've saved my life.
How is this a free podcast? Why are people not paying for this? Because
so you changed my life. I'm like, every day now I see that box.
Okay, so tell me if this is true for you. Because when we plan it, so it's an hour. The podcast is about an hour.
An hour,
and our part up front is about a half an hour.
Right.
But we schedule an hour for our part up front. Right. And that's mostly just so that we can spend a half an hour just BSing.
Right, hanging out.
Then just hanging out. It's almost like a play date.
Right.
For 30 it's like a Zoom play date.
It is a Zoom play date.
And then we go, oh, hey, we should probably get going.
Okay.
Because our guy's going to be ready for us in half an hour. Okay, 5 seconds of silence.
And I go, do you want me to hit record? And you're like, oh, we don't know. Hit record.
Yes.
And then when you hear us laughing, it's because if you hear us laughing at the beginning of the podcast,
right at the beginning,
it's because we were having our play date.
Right.
And we hit record because it was time.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works.
And I'll tell you, that's the thing that's the hardest for me about letting go of the podcast.
Yeah. Is
because
no play dates.
We don't have a scheduled play date anymore.
Right.
And it's crazy because it's like because you said this when we started. It's like we've been doing this for a decade. But part of why it's lasted for a decade is because we became like legit friends pretty much right away. We just clicked from the beginning. But it's weird because
we didn't know we would.
We absolutely didn't know we would, but we did.
And how many times have we interviewed people, and at the end, like off the mic, they go, you guys, how long have y'all known each other?
Right.
Because like y'all obviously have a thing together, and we're like, we do.
Yeah, absolutely,
we do. And our guests say it. They're like, you guys, I've never seen co-hosts like you guys. Like they know we're not just being co-hosts.
Right.
They know we were actually in a play date and we had to hit record. And record the rest of our play date.
Yeah.
Right. And talk about something.
Totally.
Which people know what we talk about is like, they're like, that's wrong, but that's their opinion.
Right. Well,
we're just shooting off at the mouth.
But it's also nice because we've had, again, some of our repeat guys. Who's the guy we just had that was repeat, that was the trauma?
Oh, Randy Greiser.
Randy Greiser, because he was on twice. And one of the things that he said that he really liked was just that it's like it. And again, I think it comes back to authenticity.
Yeah,
is that we're asking people like questions that we for real want to know about.
Yeah,
and I feel like part of the authenticity too, even from episode 120, is like there's so many times, you know this, where during the before I go I don't think I get it, what this is about. So here's how we're going to structure this. I'm actually just going to ask you like my dumb questions to try to get up to speed about this stuff. But I think it works because again, going back to like there are no dumb questions.
No.
I mean, there are some.
Yeah.
But the idea that you know that there's not everybody's already at like the advanced level for stuff.
Yeah.
So if I'm coming at it from the perspective of a guy who doesn't own a firm, and asking maybe some dumb questions, there's going to be other people who are like, oh yeah, I think I kind of needed to know that too.
Well, that's how we would play off each other. People don't know, but we would support each other. Like you would come to podcasts really prepared, and sometimes I had been busy,
right,
and I hadn't prepared as well. And you're like, I got you,
and there'd be and other way around sometimes,
and then
too.
the other way around, and then sometimes you could tell I was milking the guest.
Oh my gosh, there were some interviews where I could totally tell it's like Jason, like he needs a one-on-one with this guy to solve some crap going on right effing now at Blummer CPAs.
That's right. And I'm like,
and I'd just be like, you go, you got, this is yours.
And people probably won't know.
No, I don't think they would.
You might have gotten a little quiet because you heard me going, all right. Well, then if that happens, then what do you do? And you're like, oh, Blummer's milking him for he's got a problem. He's trying.
This is like some real action that's happening.
People didn't know on the show that many of the times I was milking them for information.
It was like a free consulting hour with a consultant.
Right, but I never told you that, but you knew.
Yeah, I could tell. I could absolutely tell when that was happening.
You would toss a question bomb in there to keep that going, and you're like, Jason, what do you think?
And then usually not even that. I would just seriously just sort of go, I'll be back here. I'll try to think of a funny thing to say to be like leprechauns, huh?
And they would go, why did you say leprechaun?
Okay.
Well, I'm an economist.
Jason, about what you were saying.
And I'd be like, let me recover from that.
So you wear Viking hats in Iceland then, huh? Okay, go back to what you guys were talking about now.
Which that's what you did.
Yeah.
Now listen, so we would shut off the recording, and then you would always say, I got a question for you, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh, I would try.
You would try to provoke the guest. Like we had a doctor, PhD from Iceland, and you said, I have one last question, and the show was over, and I knew you were going to screw.
But the show, we're still recording.
That's on the recording?
I think so. Well, that's what I would. Maybe here's something in terms of kimono peeking or whatever you said. You might not have known I did. The whole time we were interviewing, I would try to figure out what my funny last question was to ask him.
Yeah,
I'd always try to end with something funny. And the one I
saw
remember,
the pattern, man.
What was the dude, the innovation curve guy? You remember him? He was like the early adopters, the late majority Christians.
Moore.
Yeah,
Moore.
Roger Moore.
Greg Moore.
Roger.
We don't know.
He's
huge.
He's huge, and we can't remember
his name. Who his name is.
But he had his so in his bio that was sent was something like he had studied Old English, like he had a bachelor's degree in Old English, which is so applicable. But when I was in high school, I memorized the introduction to the Canterbury Tales in Old English, and I still got that on lock. So I challenged him at the end of that to like kind of like a rap battle, but with
Old English
with
and
Old
Canterbury.
English and Canterbury Tales, and I kicked his ass. Is what happened.
Yeah,
I kicked his ass.
Right, and he's probably like, "What am I doing on this podcast?
Is it too late to unsign my release form?"
That's right.
So,
and then you asked the PhD from Iceland, "Where's your Viking hat?"
Yeah,
and
I was just like, hey.
And he's like, "Hey, yeah, I don't have one right now. He's like, these dumb Americans.
Do you ride a woolly mammoth to work, and where's your Viking hat?"
So I always knew you were going to do that. And I didn't know if I was going to have to recover after that, recover the show, or the guest is going to be like, what the F?
They rolled with it pretty much entirely.
Most of them did.
Every now and then.
I think sometimes they came out of the blue and they're like, where the F did that come from? It's like, Greg's gonna hit you. He's gonna hit you with something. Sometimes I would want to warn them, and you said don't warn them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You don't warn people they're about to be asked this stuff.
No, you don't.
And I'm like,
well, that's okay. Again, and that goes back to another thing that we would do. You remember how a lot of times we'd be talking and like the play date stuff, and a lot of times because there's a play date stuff, but really there was also sort of us getting like on keel for what we're going to talk about for the episode, making sure we're on the same page for what's going on. And there'd be time where it's like, stop. We got to stop talking because this is so good right now.
Right.
Let's save this till the mics are hot. We would say that a lot, and we'd say it with the guests too.
That's right. So actually, people do hear our play dates sometimes. Sometimes we're in our play date, and we're like, we need to record this. This is like thinking we're both brilliant.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
This is genius.
This is genius. Hit record.
Okay, but legit. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but this happens to me sometimes where I'll go back and listen to an old episode and I'll be listening and I'll go, we are so smart. like I'm going that I so can't remember anything that we said that when it comes up I go, oh my gosh, that was so good. That was so good. So, and it's weird because it's like, oh, that was us that did that.
Right. You're like, oh, that's us.
And it's like,
where did that come from? Well, that must have been a show we studied for.
Must have been.
Yeah.
Must have been one. Well, no, but I think we joke around about how I think that's part of the, part of what we have fun with is kind of going, we're idiots. We don't know what we're talking about,
yeah,
but we're not idiots.
No, we're not.
We're not.
No, we know stuff.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun to be able to go, we're not experts on this stuff. But at the same time, listening back to just to toot your horn or our collective horn.
Yeah, collective horn. Or tooting the collective horn.
Sometimes we said some smart ass stuff in this podcast.
We did.
And I'm damn proud of it.
Me too. I am.
For real. I'm damn proud of what we did.
We did.
And I think I told you a lot over the years, like, thanks for picking me to be on your dodgeball team.
So you said that at the end of the shows a lot.
Yeah,
you said thank you for letting me do this with you, and I'm like, dude, you're my bro, man.
Okay, so
I just don't want to hang out with you.
Not anymore. Not after 10 years.
Well,
wait, what?
You're leaving me, man.
I know.
What am I gonna do?
Well, we still got Zoom.
We still got Zoom play dates.
You still schedule a play date for? No, Julie's like, no, I'm not gonna.
Julie's not gonna do it.
Okay, so here's one thing that we thought about doing. Can you tell? Is there an item of trivia that you know about me that the general public does not?
Oh,
I got one about you. Should I start with mine about you? Okay, here's mine. This is what I wrote down. Trivia.
This is a trivia about me?
About Jason.
Okay.
This is a trivia about Jason. The thing that you don't know is that Jason is illiterate. Every book he reads is actually an audiobook that he listens to. He's never read a word in his life. It's all audiobooks. And what's weird especially is that you watch very, very few movies for being an illiterate person. I expect people who can't read to watch more movies.
A high level of movie watching.
More of a movie repertoire than you have. But that happened. When did we figure out that you don't watch any of the movies? That became right off the bat.
Yeah, that became a joke. You would throw out movie references.
And you'd be like, I haven't
and
seen
you'd
it.
be like, right, Blummer?
Right.
And I'm like, what does that mean? You're like, it's from the movie.
Right.
And I'm like, I've never watched that.
And it's like,
You've
it's
never
like
seen
Forrest Gump. You've never
seen Spaceballs? What is wrong with you?
But then every now and then you'd be like, you'd throw one out from like the Buttercream Gang. And I'd be like, I've never seen that before. So
that's not a real movie, is it?
It is a real movie. Have you not seen that movie? Oh no, it happened again.
I haven't.
I threw out the most Jason Blummer movie that I can think of, and you haven't seen that one even.
See?
That's
this
fantastic.
is real.
That's so
Y'all,
good. But you do
movies.
But for
not seeing movies is a real thing.
And audiobooks is a real thing. You consume most of your content through audiobook, right?
I have done that in the past.
Okay.
A lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
and it just depends. If there's an audiobook that's really deep and good, I'll need to get the real one.
Yeah.
It's got to be hardcover because I got to underline it.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna probably use it some kind of teaching.
Absolutely. Okay.
Right.
Can I tell you that I bought the audiobook for Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time?
You bought the audiobook?
I did, and it wasn't him. It wasn't him doing it.
Oh, no, I don't guess so. It sounded like a computer.
No, but it was it's just too much. And I tried to listen to it on a trip to Vegas and back. And
You're like,
and eventually it was just like blah 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 blah. I'm like, I have no idea. This is too deep of content. I have no idea what you're saying.
Right.
So,
but you
I
wanted to feel smart.
I wanted to be a smart guy.
Oh, I've read Stephen Hawking's book. That book?
Yeah.
The Brief History of Time?
Brief History of Time.
It's not brief, eh?
No, I know. It's like 8 hours audiobook.
It's not brief.
Let's tighten it up, Hawkins.
Okay, right. So, as we're wrapping up here.
Wait, what's up? You got to say his trivia you know about me.
Oh, dude.
I'll tell one.
There's a lot of trivia I know about
Can I say this? We talked about this before we even started doing this.
Dude, I know so much about you.
I had a baby tooth right here. Right here. This gap in my tooth right here, that's from a baby tooth. I had a baby tooth in my mouth.
Why did you lose a baby tooth?
I didn't lose it. I had it surgically removed because it wouldn't come out, and it was starting to get all gray. It didn't taste bad or stink, but it was getting it was getting gray, and it was a baby tooth, and he had to take out my baby tooth. So I had a baby tooth till I was 48 years old, and that's the trivia about me. But that's why. And then they sit me on this side, so everybody gets to look at my missing teeth the whole time. Hey, let's get some cameras on that tooth there, Greg. Oh, lack thereof. And there we go.
So here's some trivia. But this is about both of us. Is that we went to Boston.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yes.
And we were at Thrival. We were doing. What were they called?
It was like a road show, like a CPE road show.
Yeah, a CPE road show for the members, right?
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 members would show up, and so we were doing one in Boston, and you and I got an Airbnb together. We slept in opposite bedrooms.
Yeah.
In the same Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then you would do. We spent a lot of time together in that Airbnb.
It's the truth, but it feels like you hit that too hard. Like, listen. We were not in. It was an Airbnb, but it was a multi-bedroom Airbnb. So
there were 2 bedrooms. I was in a bedroom, and you were in a bedroom.
Right, but I still came in, and we still snuggled.
Just a little bit.
It was stormy, and I got scared.
And so we did that a little while.
But you did sleep the whole night in the other one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but that's some trivia.
That is some trivia.
People don't know what part of that's true.
Yeah. But okay.
Some of it's true.
Well, I don't know how deep or whatever we want to get. The other thing I remember about that trip, I think in that trip, my marriage was falling apart.
Okay.
And you cared about me a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
On that trip.
Yeah.
Just listening to me being sad, Greg.
Yeah.
With that.
So late at night, we would have long talks about God and divorce. Yeah.
And again, like even the talks about God that we've had over time, we're not we don't see this. We don't have the same worldview.
No.
When it comes to God, but you've always been very like accepting and open and like, but at the same time not compromised like with what, but still I get candid.
Yeah.
You've been candid with how you believe and what you believe.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had the space to do that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to go, we've got we've got a very cool friendship that can be cool. Even adding a new layer to that, with the fact that we're not like the exact same people.
That's
that
right.
We've got
right.
There's
or
a lot
even
of
believe
differences.
the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
But you know why? It's because I love you.
Well, thanks, man.
Well,
and I love you too.
And
what
so,
are you making me say it on TV? Fine, I'll say it. I love you, man.
I love you, man.
I said that out
but
loud.
that's true.
Okay. I love you too, Julie. Julie's sitting over here. I love her too.
But we did.
I love people in Thrival.
Yeah.
You know how cool people in Thrival are to me?
They're good. They're just.
Carol, you remember Carol LeBlanc?
Yes.
I think it was at the first Deeper weekend. She was like, I can't believe I'm meeting someone famous when she met me, and I'm like, you're not though.
That was
at all.
great.
But she was, that was hilarious. She was at your place. You're in Jennifer's
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
And I remember meeting her, and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting. I'm just,
lady, you do not know who you're meeting.
Not fame at all.
But it's funny when you're on a podcast for 10 years, people do meet you and they're like, oh, I get to talk to you. And it's like, but we're telling them how we did those podcasts. Those were just our times together to be together as friends. So what happened is we started as not friends and we came to really become right,
but not like enemies, but
not enemies.
We started as a hate and we hated each other.
We were on opposite sides of the family. We hated one another. No, we didn't know each other. And I'm like, hey, you're good enough. Would you want to do a podcast?
Right. And I was like, I was just actually asking somebody completely different from you to do the same thing.
Right.
So yes.
He didn't reply, so I'll do it with you.
Yes, I'll do you. Yeah, okay. And
10
it's just
years later.
Dumb luck.
Dumb luck.
Yeah.
And so, but I,
10 years of growing. What are the big, because here's the other thing we were talking about. And I don't think this has to be podcast specific. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in the last 10 years? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 6 that I've outlined here. So
I didn't write my 6 down.
Here's one. Some of these are stupid.
No, they're not.
But well, here's one. Okay, so and this kind of relates to this. So Nassim Taleb, he wrote the book The Black Swan.
Yeah.
And
tough
again,
book to read.
Tough book to read. But what's crazy is that I must have read that right where we started. So I know this is within the 10-year thing because we talked about it on episode.
Ron Baker was talking about it.
Ron Baker was talking about it. Yeah, I think he was talking about probably at that thing we're at in Napa, California. Mm-hmm. And on episode 7, I talked about the barbell strategy, which is Nassim Taleb. That's his investment strategy.
I remember that.
Where he says 85% of what you invest should be in super safe whatevers, but the other 15 go buck. You should have that's like moderate risk. You should have either stuff that's like almost zero risk or stuff that's like all risk that you're shooting for the moon in. But he says 85 15 is his split. I don't know why it's called a barbell strategy.
That's not a very good barbell.
Because if you put 85 pounds on one side of the barbell and 15 on the other, you're gonna.
That's screwed up.
Yeah, but that's what he calls it. It's a dumb name, and I'm gonna message him and make sure he knows. But
on Twitter, message him.
But here's the thing: we need to do that. I think we need to do that with. It's not just investment, and again, part of pruning is going. Now I got to try to maintain 15%. to be able to go crazy with and try something new that's probably going to fail. But if I try 15 new things on this side, that's my go crazy side, and keep the 85 stable, then something over here is either going to be wild, crazy fun like the last 10 years have been, or it's going to be a failure, which I'll be able to go, well, that's what it was over there for. It was for that, and it'll be a good story.
That's right.
If nothing else. So barbell strategy, that's been huge. And again, episode 7 is when I talked about that. I didn't re-listen to that episode, so I don't know what.
But that has a lot to do with what you're saying now. Is you're like, it's time for me to put my barbell strategy into place, right?
Exactly.
And I've got to go get that crazy. Like this podcast was crazy when we started.
Totally.
10 years in, it's like, oh, this is a thing.
We know. Well, that's the other thing.
And you're like, how crazy for me to go start something else and say goodbye to this.
Yeah. It is, which is crazy.
Right. Which put us in a situation to go, what is our future?
Yeah, for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Thrivecast is Jason and Greg.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's never not been that. Right?
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, yeah, and it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. So the one thing I've probably
So
learned,
am I forcing you into positive change?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it's positive.
Oh, yeah.
But it can't not be. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing. It can't not be.
No.
Because
it is.
Because you're gonna. That's the thing. You're you, and you make magic happen.
I don't know.
Because I don't think, and that's the thing. I guess I've never thought of me leaving this as like screwing you.
No, no, it's not.
Right, but even like if there's if there's like a legit, is me saying I'm done with the podcast, am I going to screw Jason over by doing that? And that never, I didn't even think about that till just now.
No.
That never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Because of the talent. Look at me getting all weepy and stuff on this thing. Because you fucking make magic, man. You do.
I don't know.
This is something, and that's why I thank you so often after these podcasts, is because you let me be part of your magic.
Yeah.
And it's not, and you're a magician. You can make more magic.
Well, I've never thought about it as you screwing us.
Yeah.
Ever.
Good.
Because but that plays into the relationship, right? That
Right.
you've already explained. It's like our relationship is whoever you are is what we're all about. And and you're like that with me too.
Exactly,
so if your journey takes you down a different path, we're rooting for that journey, right?
Right.
And then we'll all be sad, but we'll choose some paths and keep trucking, which I think is a beautiful example of something everybody should consider, which is what is just really working just in such a way that you need to shake your life up a little bit,
right?
And try something different,
right?
And know you're not going to die. It's probably not going to wreck your life to change that thing that's just always just worked. And the podcast become that. It's like, it is our standard. And it's just a regular thing for us.
And it works so well. Because, I mean, I even think about, like, going back to just how the podcast would happen. Like, do you remember when because we had technical challenges when we started.
Right.
Where we would, the whole podcast would just drop, like because we did it on Skype originally.
Yeah.
And Skype would just, like, the floor would fall out and we'd all just be kicked off Skype for no reason. And then we're like, okay, we got to shut off our cameras while we're doing it. And then that was weird because it was hard to get the nonverbal cues of who's going to ask the next question.
Right.
But then we went without cameras for years, and we figured, like, without even trying, we figured out how to read each other.
Yeah.
Like, just like read each other's mind almost literally.
Yeah.
Of going, oh, he's got this next one. Or oh, okay, now it's time for me to jump in. And it was just this dance that we figured out.
Right.
And we got it down. But I think the other thing you're trying to say, and there's somebody, I think some HBR guy, creative destruction. That's the thing that I think HBR. You look it up on your laptop.
Yeah, I think
here,
that might be.
Let me get here.
That might be somebody different.
Yep, HBR creative destruction right there. You got to do that. No, but you got to get rid of stuff so that you can make.
That's right.
It's Cortez burning the ships.
That's right.
So
right, and so
I mean, for a very horrible thing that they did in history,
right, that's right. Yeah,
we'll still use that.
Don't
as an
do
example.
what they did. Right. Right.
Yikes! And so now the podcast is over
for sure.
For sure,
we are shut down.
Yeah.
Right. We've been canceled.
There you go.
Yeah, we've been canceled.
Right.
No, but through all this, I have learned probably most about myself. And as an entrepreneur, you've seen me go through the ups and downs of company and firm building. I would roll into a podcast, just hair on fire, and you're like, "You okay, man?" I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay today.
Right.
So you're gonna have to carry me a little bit today. So this learning the mental battles and the struggles that entrepreneurs go through, has just given me clarity and a lot of empathy for the entrepreneurs that we care about. And I think our Thrival members know it too, because they're like, you and Julie are doing this. Thank you for doing this while also running Thrival. And we're like, it's taken a hot minute to figure out how to run two companies.
Right.
And we have a whole massive team to do it. But I've learned more about myself as a leader and sometimes cutting yourself breaks, caring about yourself, taking those mental breaks to have your care. And so those are the things I'm trying to learn to do on more of a consistent basis, is to care for myself, because when I do that, I'm caring for the other people around me that I love.
Which is so crazy. You gotta blow those leaves out of that garage, baby.
Right.
You need to
call it good, like that guy did. He's like, take care of yourself, blow those leaves out, and just sit there and just go.
Heck yeah.
So
totally.
Okay, so I got a question for you as we wrap up.
Yeah.
What's the next 10 years? Where are you going, man? What are you doing?
Right. Okay. Wait. Which question are we asking? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, or what's next? I see.
Okay. Yeah. Both of those.
I hate the question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Okay.
I hate it. And
you have no idea.
If you asked me that 10 years ago, I would have had no idea.
Right.
What I'm doing today.
A famous podcast co-host.
Exactly. So I don't. I mean, So there's some of that. I mean, it's boring. It's like I think I'm still gonna live in Utah. I think we're probably gonna be working more and more remotely. Well, duh. We just had a pandemic. You dumb Greg. I do one thing. I mean, one thing I can't not do. I love stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So comedy in whatever form it is. So I will do something comedy-wise.
You've been doing that forever. Forever.
Well, and the crazy thing is, that's one of those things in terms of pruning. You never feel like you arrive. That's why I think that's part of why I love stand-up comedy, is that you can have an amazing show yesterday and you still go, I don't know if I could do that again. And so every show,
a challenge every time.
Every show is like you're trying to reprove to yourself that it wasn't just magic in a bottle for the last. Because I've been doing that for 20 years.
Wow.
It was a stand-up comedy. And so I'll always do that, because at least, I mean, unless it stops being like that.
Yeah.
I guess if I ever felt like it's like this is not a challenge to me anymore, then maybe I'd step away from that. But I don't see that happening. For me. So what about you? What do you?
You didn't give us no dirt, man.
Well, do you want to know what I'm doing though? Here's my projects I got. I'm an entrepreneur now. I started my own fry sauce business.
Boom.
Do you know what fry sauce is?
No.
I'll tell you what it is.
Complicated.
Mix 2 parts mayo with 1 part ketchup. Mix that up and dip a tater tot in it, and your mind's gonna be blown. Can a toddler make fry sauce? Yes, they can. But I'm gonna do something completely different with it. It's a delicacy in the state of Utah because it's amazing. And so I started a fry sauce business, and I'm gonna try to bottle not just fry. It's high end fry sauce.
Oh yes,
it's gonna be
not
like
the basic.
No. Because here's the thing.
You're gonna go to the grocery store and get the expensive mayonnaise.
Okay, when I go to the liquor store, I don't know what I'm doing. But the one thing I tell myself is I'm worth liquor that comes in a glass bottle is what I
no plastic bottles.
No, not with my liquor. And here's the thing: you go to the store, you might be able to find fry sauce, but guess what? Plastic bottle
with a dumpy label.
With a dumb label. It's not. This is gonna be the Dom Perignon of ketchup and mayo is what it is.
And you have said on your fry sauce website, which you have one.
Yeah, we do.
We haven't bottled any yet.
No, we have got a kick-ass website. We've got an amazing blog. We have merch. We got apparel, but what we do not have is sauce. We don't have sauce.
Okay, no sauce yet, but we're getting there.
But here's the thing. But that's what's engaging about this. I have never even done accounting for a company that has inventory before.
Okay.
So that alone is a challenge for me. I've got to go, oh yeah, cost of goods sold. I know what that is. And now I've got to go, oh, but it's a little more challenging than what they make it look like in financial accounting 101. So I guess I got to figure out how to do WIP.
What?
That kind of so that's a challenge in and of itself. But then I don't know anything about the regulations of foodstuffs or
you gonna figure it out.
I'm gonna. And I was telling you guys before, I bottled each of you fresh last night your own bottles of fry sauce. At home, I have 2 bottles that I bottled up that were bottled in March. I think March 21st of this year. And all we're trying to figure out is what's the shelf life of our stuff if we do it at home. And so eventually when we have the courage, we're going to bust one of those open and we're going to dunk some onion rings in them and see if it makes us violently ill.
And if you get sick, you'll be like, can't sell that to the public.
I think I can. Well, what is that? Is that what can I deduct Imodium as like a research and development credit on my taxes? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's part of that. So that's one of the things. I got a comedy show that that's a regular show out in Utah called Comedy Church.
Yeah.
Which is where we invite comedians on. They do their comedy about God and religion and stuff like that. And then I interview every comedian. We have kind of a funny but very real conversation about like their intersection in their life of how their life and religion have played out.
Yeah.
It's been a very well received, and
Is that a podcast?
Nope, it's not a podcast, but I got a new partner with it.
Nice.
Because with the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, I was going, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. But I was going, but again, I was really proud of it. And then I was like, you know what I need? I need a partner to do this with. So I got a partner, and he knows people that I don't know. We have a music director for Comedy Church. At our last show, we had our first congregational singing, and that's been something I've wanted to do. And I will not even tell you what we did for our song because it's just that sacrilegious.
I bet.
But yeah, so those are the 2 things. I mean, and my webinars, my CPE,
yeah, ethics.
But here's the funny thing: the same thing has happened. I feel like that's something I need to either need to stop doing it or I need to shake it up like big time.
The webinars.
Because they've been fun. I've learned a ton. I've made some bank doing them. Yeah. Doing the CPE. It's been really cool, but I'm at the point now where I go that I've done it like it. I mean, kind of like what you said with this, where it's like we've done it. It's the podcast. Right. It's the thing. Yeah. But it's not. I got to either shake it up. I think I got to shake it up, or else I need to cut it loose. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at with those 2. Well, so I don't know. In 10 years, I don't know if I'm going to be doing CP anymore, or if I do, it's going to be something that nobody's ever seen or done before. Yeah. And because that's what I want to do. I need to. Yeah. And it's not just money stuff. Yeah. It's like it's also just. Well, okay, because another thing I've learned in the last 10 years, and I read a book, I've talked about it on the podcast, is existential psychotherapy.
Yes.
And
we talked about that in Boston.
Did we?
You had the book.
I probably did, yeah.
You had it.
I'm confident that I did.
And I'm like, you have what book?
And it sounds like a horrible book. It was so good, or at least for me it was. But one of the things I learned about then, I learned the purpose of life from that book. Nice. The purpose of life, because a lot of people are looking like for meaning and stuff like that. And one of the things he says is like that's great, but it's almost like Cal Newport and passion. Yeah. Where it's like if some people have something that's like this is my purpose in life. Boom, big thing. But he says, okay, if you don't have that, which we're gonna say the majority of people don't have like this big capital M meaning. Right. He's like, the thing is, if you are so engaged with whatever you're doing, then the other question of purpose and meaning blurs out and becomes background. You don't even. It's like because that book Flow with the guy
Yep.
with the impronounceable last
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
It's like that. If you're in
Mike
flow,
Chick, no.
Yeah,
It's something, I don't know.
Yeah, something Czechoslovakian. I was
Czechoslovakian.
gonna say, but he same thing that he says. When you're in flow, it's almost like it's almost like time stops. When
So you don't need to worry about those other things,
right?
Okay.
And that's the thing is like being just that heavily engaged in something. That's where I need to live my life. So if something stops me, like if stand-up comedy, if I feel like I'm not engaged like that with anymore, I got to cut that loose too. Got to find the next thing.
As hard as that'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you? What are the next things?
Well,
for you.
You're right. Yeah, it's hard to say in 10 years what are we going to be doing. But we can say what's next. And the Thrivecast is going to keep going.
Nice.
In some form. We don't know fully, but we are packaging some pretty amazing things and pretty big ideas, and so we're gonna bring it out in possibly new formats, and we got to honor the name, man, right? Because we could have gone down many roads, right? We got to shut that down.
Oh,
That's Jason and Greg.
Oh, I see.
You honor that name. You shut that down, but we want to keep it going in honor of what it has been.
Yeah. Good.
So we want to keep that
like
going. Now, it's going to change and morph. And so, Julie and I are thinking through what it is. And so, but this is becoming a thing. You've given us a gift.
By getting the hell out of here.
Yeah. Get the hell out of here.
You know what I want for Christmas? I want you to get the hell out of here is what I want.
So you did something. Here's the thing, though, in life. You did something we never would have done, right?
Okay.
Right? I mean, you don't go fire somebody that's working.
Oh, gotcha.
This is great.
Gotcha.
You're
Yeah,
fired.
yeah.
That doesn't work out.
Yeah,
right?
I hear you.
Things that break, you discard them, right?
Yeah.
So you did something we never would have done. Never would have been a need to do that. So what you did is you forced us into a place to say, what's next?
Yeah.
And so that's been hard. That's been mind-numbingly difficult to know, does this go on? Does it not go on? We have thought through that and talked through it over and over. Hard to come down on a decision to make about something that's just a huge part of our life. We think it's a huge part of a lot of listeners' lives, and it's been valuable. It's really just we feel like it's been for me and you. A lot of times we're like,
right.
Well, damn, I love that show.
Right.
I don't know if anybody understands anything we said, but we loved being together and doing the show. So we're really right now we're considering what are we going to pack in our bag and take with us into the future, and what are we going to leave behind? Yeah, which that's what happens in life. You take pivot points in life, right? And you go, this is a point at which I'm going to open up my suitcase. I'm going to take some stuff out of it. I'm going to take some baggage from the past out of it. Not that your baggage. This is not becoming a good.
No, I'm so. You
take a dump on something.
Right. So I opened my suitcase and here's a turd. That's you. You're the turd.
That's Greg.
I'm gonna flush that down the toilet.
There's Greg. The turd's Greg.
No,
in this analogy, the turd is Greg.
But listen, that's what's so freaking hard about all of this stuff.
Right.
And that's like, is how do you make a move like this? When it's somebody and something that you care deeply about.
I don't know.
But also the funny thing is, again, going back to the relationship, I know that you don't think about me like a turd in a suitcase. And and I know you don't. You know that I don't. That this has been a huge thing for me over these years, and it's not. And exactly like you said, it's not getting rid of it because it's bad.
Right.
It's getting rid of it because the timing just feels like it's right to do that.
Right.
So,
but
for me, that was the timing felt right. For you, you're like going, oh, I guess the timing's right because it's done.
No, well, but that's the thing. Sometimes in life, you decide your path forward, and sometimes those decisions are made for you.
Yeah.
And you got to roll sometimes when they're given to you. You got to go, is this a gift to me or is this a destruction in my life? And so, but what the gift you've given us is you're moving on to other things at a time that lets us call that history very sacred. the Thrivecast great.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing what we have. And so we want to honor that moving forward. Now, we get to make it a whole new thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We get to make it a whole new thing, but we've got a lot of great plans to turn it into something amazing. And people will always go, the first 10 years of that, the foundation is those 10 years when Jason and Greg were there. And it's just they'll always know.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to forget
that
that's what's part of it. So
cool. Well,
okay.
And let me,
so get out.
I'm out. Let me say this one other thing. Two of the questions you made me think about answers for was what was my favorite thing about doing the podcast?
Right.
These were two questions. What favorite thing about doing the podcast? Biggest thing I'll miss about doing the podcast? That was, to me, it was just like you, Jason Blummer. My favorite part of the podcast was you, hanging out with you.
Yeah.
The play dates. And it's not just the play date, even just the fun we would have.
Yeah.
Like do recording our part, or the fun we'd have with the guests. I mean, all of that. Coming out here every year to see it's you were the favorite part of the podcast, and easily the big. I mean, it's almost like I was almost like, is he just asking me these questions because he needs some affirmation? Is that what it is?
Yes. That's why
it's you.
Okay.
It's you.
That was the right answer.
So it's the accurate answer as well. So it's been amazing.
Well, for me, it was always Dan Ariely. He was the reason. I finally got to him through you.
Yeah.
And so it's time for you to leave.
Yeah.
Know what, Peter Block. When I hit that, I'm like, okay, Greg's use has passed.
Yeah.
I got Peter Block without his pants on into my digital living room. Life is good.
Yeah.
No, but that's the same thing for me, right?
Yeah.
You and I never went into a podcast recording going, this guest is life-changing. We were there to see each other.
Yeah.
Totally. We were like, I get to go be with Greg.
Right.
Who were we interviewing again? We don't know until we pull up the production notes. No, we did know.
Yeah.
But it was, we get to hang out again, our monthly play date.
Yep. Which honestly, I mean, I think if you think about like keys to success, and maybe this is, well, I think I'm going to say either this is something I learned over the last 10 years or just something that I'm at a point where, no. This is something I definitely learned is that if you're not in love with what you're doing, then nobody else is going to be in love with it either.
Yeah.
Like the fact, like I feel like our podcast, whatever success it had was because you and I had a really good time doing it. And then and then for me, I go, people will have a good time listening. People like to enjoy other people in having a good time.
You taught me that.
So
you actually taught me that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd end and we'd go, dude, boy, we screwed that one over. And you're like, did you have fun? I'm like, yeah, this was great. Everybody's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's fine. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Greg, thank you for 10 years.
Dude.
Of my life.
Again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this crazy project that worked amazing. And
who knew? 10 years.
Not me, but I will always be grateful.
Yeah.
And I, in the words of Whitney Houston, I will always love you.